Hey there, guys. Welcome to another episode of Scaling with SaaS. I'm your host, Johnny Shipman, CEO and founder of Invincible Media. And this time, super lucky to have the awesome Peter Asman, CRO of Living Map, with us today. Peter, we finally got you, man. We're on.
Thanks so much.
Look, listen, thanks very much for jumping on. We always do a ton of research into all our guests, but I'm not going to steal your thunder, man, because I know you've got a great story, right? So, look, let's just ask quite bluntly, who is Peter Asman and what's your background?
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Johnny. Lovely to be here. So yeah, my background, crikey, I'm at Living Map right now. I'm Chief Revenue Officer for Living Map. Been here for about 3 years. But how I found myself here is probably a lifetime after leaving the military many years ago of working in smart technologies. I got a call, I'll never forget, I got a call. I was made redundant from a company called Riversoft, which did network management. I went into network management all those years ago, and I got a call from a friend who was looking to hire a business development guy in the fintech space and the financial space in London. And they had this new product that was coming out from this little Canadian company no one ever heard of. He said, look, it's worth just coming and meeting the boss. The company was research in motion. Went over, met the boss, great guy, and guess what? It was a BlackBerry product. So I was actually part of the original launch team for BlackBerry back in 2000, which was absolutely fantastic. And that was my first, I suppose, fall in, if you want to call it, into smart technologies. The BlackBerry device was all about smart tech. It was all about this device that was going to basically unhinge you from, get you away from the desk and be able to talk to people when you're off. It was the first platform that got off there. So that was great. And we had a great time and we launched it into the fintech space, did really, really well. Going back to the days of when you're going in front of a customer with a piece of cardboard to say, this is what it's going to look like. It's going to be great. We launched it on the BT Cellnet, the O2 network first. It was absolutely fantastic. So I spent some time there. Then I left there, and again, another startup. We did a company called Outercurve, which was the first market data application that ever worked on the BlackBerry. So, from the Bloomberg perspective and the Reuters perspective, you weren't tied to your desk anymore. You could get your delayed data, as it were. It's never real-time data within fintechs and the mobile piece. It was getting that information, getting your emails from Bloomberg, getting your data out there and on that. So that was fantastic. It was a great startup. Did incredibly well at the back of that company called Outercurve, which was really good. Then I joined Vetro, which again was another startup in the UK. They were very much more around sort of back-end data, your CRM pieces, your document management piece. So again, great product, did really, really well. And then had a bit of a break in the market, decided to take some time off and came back and thought, you know what, a job. I need a job. Which can I go? And it was 2008. And for those, Johnny, you're far too young, but for those of us that have remember what 2008 was like in fintech, it was a little bit rough. The whole market globally crashed, so it was absolutely awful. It was horrendous. It was the worst. Just you couldn't get a job for love nor money. But I got a call from a very good friend of mine again. Said, look, O2 are looking for someone who understands mobilization consultancy. Do you want to come in and do that? So I thought, yes, of course I can. Sounds good. And I was effectively a solutions architect working in the O2 space, going into customers, predominantly in the finance industry, to say, right, actually, you've got this device that you've now got. It may be a mobile phone, it may be a Nokia candy bar phone, but there's so much more you can actually do with it, so much more you can talk about. So I ended up spending not long, probably about 8-9 months in that. Then got a call from the boss at Telefonica to say, Pete, we've won this really big account. Don't quite know what to do with it. Could you go and have a look at it? They've fired 2 client directors already, and we need you to go and fix it. And it was like, great, it's going to be a big finance account. It's going to be a network rail. Do you know what? It was the best years of my career. Working with that company was just when I first got of course, my boss tells me, of course I'm going to go do it, good soldier boy. I remember the first meeting I ever went, it was just bureaucracy. It was filled with men, hardly any women in there. It was just like this really weird company that was desperately trying to become diverse, desperately trying to get ahead of the game
Yeah.
and do stuff like this. And they were looking at O2, who had this amazing brand out there. So how do we take that and use it to there? And do you know what? It was just under 7 years of being the client director on Network Rail, which was, to me, was the best years I've ever had. It was just forward thinking organization. I always joke that I got into rail. I love rail now. I love talking about rail because the technology that makes the railway work is fabulous.
Yeah, I think we give it enough respect, do we really? It's vast. There's so much cool stuff about it, so much tech involved.
And we all use it every day. The technology they talk about, the technology they do, the experience I've had within smart technologies and understanding how, networks can actually be beneficial to them. We rolled out solutions called things like Project Orbis, but to cut a long story short on that, was just like all of a sudden these guys had iPhones in their hands and they could take a photograph of a broken bolt on the track, send that right to the management team, so this needs to be changed. And instead of a 6-week process to get that bolt changed, it's done overnight. So the bolt arrives the following day, and it's gone from 6 weeks to 2 days to fixing this problem on the track. So those are the kind of things you're thinking about. Really exciting, really going well, brilliant, fantastic.
Absolute revolution stuff. That's beyond.
It really was,
Mm.
and I got promoted up to Silly Heights in Telefonica because of all the great work we did on there, running the digital transformation team within Telefonica, globally, which was fantastic. It was a great job, really exciting what I was actually doing, and then taking that knowledge that I've got from the BlackBerry days, from the Attica Vetro and the Network Rail days, and taking it to the wider audience of Telefonica, which is great, and being the advocate and being the evangelist of talking about how smart technologies can fundamentally change the way organizations shift and work. And it's then when the likes of IoT and data management and all that was really starting to bloom. We used to call it M2M in those days. Put one SIM card in here and a SIM card talks to a machine. But IoT really came out, it really exploded, and that kind of got my skill set really where it needed to be, which is around smart technologies. And I wanted to take the Telefonica on that journey to create the whole IoT platform, which they weren't too keen on doing. They just wanted to sell more connections. So I decided to leave and join a company called Trillion. Again, they were doing exactly that, but COVID hit, and it was just the whole pipe, as you well imagine, awesome global pipeline just dropped through the floor.
I know it was a horrible, it was a terrible thing, but look, we've had some cool visionaries that have told us their story, and it's like, wow, kudos. No one's seen that coming, but fair play.
Think of what happened. Everybody was tied to the desk. So having smart technologies, managing data, being able to get information to people wherever they were was something that we were banging on about for probably 15 years. All of a sudden was critical. You're absolutely right. It is an opportunity. Yes, it was a horrendous time, but from a technical perspective, from a smart technologies perspective, it was really, really exciting. And then, Living Map, I kind of looked at, say, 3 years ago, and the whole premise of what Living Map is all about is creating a digital wayfinding solution, a digital environment. So you go into a shopping mall like the Trafford Centre, like the Metro Centre, like Canary Wharf. You try and find your way around this. Look, I went into my daughter's at university in Manchester at the moment, and she took me to Trafford Centre on a Saturday morning, and I got really frightened. I had to leave. There were so many people; it was all a little bit.
I'm not shopping these days, but as soon as I identify one or two brands, right, just take me
That's
there. I just need to go there. Boom.
it.
And I'm on Google Maps, and it's like there's no signal, there's no reception. I think I've seen, and I think I've used
Yeah.
Living Map.
It's a fantastic platform from a wayfinding perspective. You go in, you open it up, and the user interface is really simple. So you want to go find Primark. Yes, you want to go and find Marks and Spencers. Yes, you want to go and find Waitrose. You want to go for lunch. You can do it all in your hand. The map is constantly updated by the client, so we don't have to go and log in and do it. It's part of the solution. The likes of Trafford love it. But if you take that a little bit further, we also got the Met Museum in New York, where we have over 50,000 people using it every month. What's really cool about that, Johnny, is the data. We know what people were looking for. We know the route they took. Obviously, we can't get down to personalized data because that's not what we do, but we can see this group of people wanted to find the Egyptian artifacts and they went down this route at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And guess what? It was a bottleneck. You couldn't get there. So maybe there's things you can do. And they use that data to be able to design how they pull their place together. So it's really, really powerful. But then look at it from another user perspective. You're going into a hospital. So we're doing a lot of work with hospitals in the UK at the moment. You're already anxious because you've got to see a doctor, see a consultant, whatever the case may be. I was in a hospital this morning trying to find the cardiac ward. But you walk in with a Living Map, there's a kiosk on the wall, or you just download it before you go in. It gives you the route to where you've got to go. There's a little blue dot that follows you through where you're actually trying to get to. The most important thing is if the consultant in the morning changes his room, it automatically changes on the user's map. So it was room 17, it's now room 5, so they automatically change and go there. So it was one of those things with Living Map where we believed, and everybody, you and I can have a great conversation about how important wayfinding is or digital wayfinding is, but it was a real bitch to sell. Everybody wanted to know about it. Everyone wanted to talk about it. But when it actually goes up to a CFO to sign it off, he says, well, I'm not paying that for a map. Just go print something off. So what we did is we pivoted, we diversified that. We changed it to being, actually, we now want to look at assets. So we now want to look at a hospital knows where the porter is, so they can give the job to the closest porter. So instead of a porter having to do 30,000 steps a day just to be able to do their job, all of a sudden you take that down to 10,000 steps a day because you're giving the job to the most functional porter who's nearest that particular role. Trying to find out where the drug trolley is, trying to find out how many beds are free, trying to find out even where patients are. We now give that on a visualization perspective. So we took the wayfinding piece, which is still an incredible product and it's selling absolutely everywhere, to now diversified it into a locating device, visualize assets location type device. So that can go into an administrator or into a facilities management platform and they can see where they're going. So look, that's my journey, I suppose, to where I am today. We're now out there selling our locator product, which is absolutely fantastic. We're doing really, really well. We've had the best quarter ever, smashed our numbers as Q1, which is just fantastic. We've managed to pivot the company to be something that's really solving a fundamental problem. And guess what? It's all software as a service.
Fantastic. Well, I was going to ask you, I remember when we were talking to Angie before we set the podcast up, and she said, look, let's talk about the asset location. The wayfinding, it does what it says in the tin. It's superb, super innovative. And like I said, I've used it before. I was quite impressed. Of course, the mobile app, you can see exactly where that's going to fit, theme parks, hospitals, shopping centers, museums, even just around town, I guess. But then the asset location, that example about finding the porter, the drug trolley, superb. What it just opens up another ICP, doesn't it?
It's a real utility, and it's a real problem we're trying to solve, right? So think of a hospital, King's London, it is huge hospital. They've got thousands of people working there, coming in every day. You can just imagine the logistics in there. Trying to manage it is just absolutely painful. But just knowing where, if an engineer comes in to fix a water meter, and knowing, hey, just scan this QR code and it will take you directly to that water meter, or directly to that light, directly to that thing that needs fixing. We can do that straight away. So all of a sudden you're saving a ton of time. And it's the output of what you get with that as well. So bear in mind, Living Map, we can make a map do anything you want it to do. We can make it do backflips if you really want, but it's not really about that for Living Map. It's about the map management system. It's about that data collection. It's about getting that information. It's about the client being able to log in at any time and change things around. It's moved from Waitrose to WH Smith's. It's no longer, well, it's going to obviously be slightly different, but they can do that on their own. They're not having to employ another graphic designer, the mapping company again, all that, or bring it in and do it. So it's about the map management system, but it's also about the data analytics that you get at the back of it. So they can actually start to think about how many porters do they need to have on a shift. They might be actually, we had 10 porters, we actually needed 15 because these guys are running around like headless chickens trying to get the job done. We can actually visualize and show that, and show the heat maps of where it's actually working, show the data that's come out the back of it. And that's what Living Map's all about. It's giving that information across to the client to say, yes, we'll visualize your assets for you. We'll do a really good job. However, it's that map management system which is solving that bigger problem, right? So where is everything? Move things around, build that into other systems as well. And that's the value of the asset piece. And again, it's software as a service, right? We are a small team in the UK. We've got global customers. We've got customers in Australia, customers in Singapore, customers in the Middle East. We've got customers in the US, and we all run it all from the UK. We've got data centers we connect to all around the world, especially in the Middle East. They demand that the data is in country. It gives us ability to scale really quickly. And that's the most important, easiest piece from our platform, is to be able to scale at speed.
Yeah, fantastic. Absolutely. There's so much application. You got a large space. If it's complicated, we're your man. Okay, well, look, where was the light bulb moment? I mean, maybe from a founder perspective, did they all of a sudden go, ooh, obviously it's a problem now that you've broken this down. It's a huge problem. It really is. I mean, the productivity, the cost involved and stuff. But where was the light bulb moment? Were you involved with that setup, that journey, that realization? Or, or were you just sort of fed into the major issue that they fixed at the time and just thought, right, I've got to join?
I joined Living Map when there was a opportunity to scale it, probably about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Bear in mind, Johnny, we talk about COVID. We came out of COVID. Who wanted an indoor map during COVID? No one, right? So we have some fantastic boards, some fantastic investors that kept the company going, kept it bleeding, going through that period of time to when we came out, to when we went back to normality, where people would need an indoor map and so on and so forth, and really tried to start scale up there. So the light bulb moment for Living Map came a long, long time ago, where it was actually with all the digital bits and bobs that are going about now, with the networks that are already starting to talk to each other, whether it's Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, whether it's Zigbee, whether it's cellular, whether it's GPS, it's out there. All these networks are starting to get there, surely, and people can drive a car and they can be shown directions. Surely we can do that indoors. So understanding wayfinding was really critical. But I suppose the light bulb moment was all of this stuff coming together. The digital transformation journey for most organizations really is about visuality, being able to visualize what's actually going on, where they can do it, what they can actually get to them, I suppose, the next stage. But for me, in the period of time that I've been here, the light bulb moment of us needing to pivot was very much around our pipeline. It was very much around our market. I hate the idea of a company being pre-revenue. I think that's just, no company should ever be pre-revenue. Don't build the company unless you're going to make money. Business is about making money. And if you're going to build a product that's going to fundamentally change people's lives, fantastic, go and do it. You've got my full support, but get investment to do it. If you're not going to build a product to make money, don't bother. So I think what's happening was we had a load of great conversations going on wayfinding. Healthcare wasn't quite ready for it. They were doing a digital journey, so that was all going great. We tried to get into aviation. We did a lot of work in aviation, real positive business in aviation. But what we find is the airlines and the airports don't really talk that much. They don't like each other that much. One wants to keep the passenger in the airport, one wants to get them onto the plane as quick as possible. It's kind of like, so we spent a lot of time trying to unravel that. We constantly thought about how can we create more revenue? How can we drive drive a business forward. And that was when locator, the asset piece, really that light bulb moment. We talk about actually my smart technologies and my IoT background tells me that with the IoT explosion, IoT is going to be worth what, $2 trillion globally in the next 5 years. Monstrous. With smart technologies coming through the back of that software as a service, platform as a service, it's all there now, it's all working. So hang on a minute, we've got all these assets out there. They're all being tagged somehow with some proprietary piece of software. Wouldn't it be great if we could visualize them and we actually put them onto the map? And our great CTO, Phil Ray, said, actually, that's really simple. We should do that. So he kind of built the locator product, and we built it with a friendly hospital where we actually started to we need an XY coordinate to find out where this particular porter was, for instance, and we needed a Z coordinate. So we got a Z coordinate from a tag that we put around a lanyard tag that we put around their neck, and the XY coordinate was coming directly from the phone. So all of a sudden we could locate where all the porters were. Now take that technology and put it into a drug trolley, put it into a crash machine, put it into a wheelchair, put it onto a trolley. All of a sudden the tag or sensor technologies are massive. They're all out there now. They're connecting everything. All we want is that XY coordinate, XYZ coordinate to put on the map. So all of a sudden we shifted from being driving a wayfinding solution to actually having two products, which is our wayfinding product, which is like, I believe the creme de la creme of wayfinding solutions in the market. I don't think anything comes close to actually taking that and saying, do you know what, Mr. Customer, Trafford Centre, we talk about it. We can layer that map for you. So you've got your wayfinding, you can see where your shoppers are going, seeing what they're doing. Let's layer it. Let's put another layer on it. Where's your security guards at any one time? Do you need a security guard that's close by? You can layer into bin technology. Are the bins empty or the bins being put? All of a sudden, you're starting to build that IoT infrastructure, that smart IoT infrastructure, into something really cool and visualizing it, actually being able to see it, see where people are that are important to you, see where things are going, And I've got this idea of Trafford, and I haven't really quite spoken to them. So it'll be a little bit of an exclusive, Johnny, but I'd love to go into them. Where really expensive shop, where they sell all these really expensive shoes and handbags and stuff like that. Put a tag on all of them, and if they get nicked, you know where they are.
I tell you what, until you start dissecting this and peeling down all the layers, honestly, I would love to pitch this because I think with knowing what I know now, I think I could do a damn good job. And I would think that the pain points are there. When you start stripping this down, I mean, the healthcare is a shout. It really is. A crash device, drugs trolley, something super urgent, emergency, definitely was that too. Bang, there's the closest one. Look, you've already pretty much touched upon this now, but I was going to ask you how you identified and validated the ICP. We always like to know stuff like this, right? Now, I was thinking, standard shopping malls, maybe theme parks or leisure parks and stuff. Then there's the map, got your app, walk around, find this, find that. But now I've had my mind blown now with the locator stuff. Let's just drill down a bit more. Where can Living Map live? I mean, what ICP or verticals do you guys best perform in?
It's a great question. And I think, where we're getting most traction right now is healthcare. Because we're working with facilities management companies. Look, anyone who tells you it's easy to sell to healthcare is mad. It's easy to sell to healthcare outside of the UK. The NHS, I'll be the advocate to say, is the most difficult company to sell for, even if you have the best and most innovative solution. To get it through a procurement team with the NHS is a painful process, and rightfully so. They want to make sure those checks and balances are in place. But we are going through facilities management companies right now. We have sold directly to some hospitals. But the biggest growth market for us, if you look about, paying those day-to-day bills, healthcare is going to do that for us. But the biggest growth market for us is very much retail. I mean, you've seen Trafford, you've seen Metro Centre in Newcastle, we're in Canary Wharf. So we are starting to really expand into retail, and we're talking to a lot of the big organizations like the Savills of the world to say, right, okay, you manage these areas, let's help you do from a wayfinding solution, but give the ability to be able to layer that map. And that's where we sit really, really sweetly right now. So hospitals, we sit really, really well. We sit really well within retail because we can actually add that value all the way through, looking at what people are shopping for, looking where they're going and giving that data back, which is really important. We're pretty cool in culture. So we've got the Met Museum, which is probably our oldest customer. And the data that we get out of the Met Museum, they absolutely love. If you think about, say, 50-odd thousand people every month use the map in one way, shape or form, whether they're before they go there. It's on their website. If you log into the Met Museum website, you'll see visit, map, open up, there's Living Map. It's a Living Map solution, so
I'm going to check that out. Yeah.
It's really simple. And what's really cool about that, I mean, we've had, so a little secret, when we sell up against other competitors, we've been into shopping malls where they said, well, actually, we can't come to you guys right now because we've spent an absolute fortune on our map. And you look at it and it's an expensive PDF. And every time, and it's the closing meeting, and probably a very big shopping centre we're not going to mention, the closing meeting, they had to have 16 people in the room from 4 different suppliers. I'd send one sales guy to do that because that's what we do. And then every time they want to make a change to that map, it costs them £16,000. they've had to make about 26 changes to the map. So you can well imagine that, right?
A retailer drops off, or
Everything, all that
oh
kind of stuff.
no,
You want to do promotions. You want to say, somebody walks into the Trafford Centre and you want to say, Prada have got a discount on their shoes this week. Boom, we can put it in straight away. It's part of what you get. You're not having us to do anything. You log in, you do it, it's done. Or you want to change things around. You want to move Costa's becoming a Starbucks, whatever. You just change it. You go in and change it. To do those kind of changes in this shopping mall is costing £16,000 and 4 different companies to come in and do it. We do it all, I say. We do it all as one. And we give them the ability to be able to do that. And we're a fraction of the cost for the way we actually do it. So that's where we're really getting well. We don't charge anything up front. We're an ARR model. So, we charge a monthly subscription, and that's what we do. We build the map. As soon as the customer signed it off, that's when we start going. So it gives that customer that ability to get in and get involved. So we get that with culture. It's going very, very well. Where we're starting to see some roots of some real value is education. So I don't know if Angie's shown you the Bath Spa uni, which is really interesting. We've had feedback from them, and I'm sure Angie won't mind me saying that, disabled students have actually said, I'm going to go to Bath Spa because I now find my way around, because one of the things about Living Map is it's about accessibility. So the first thing you do is, I want a step-free route. So it takes you away from steps. So you can go up the lift, you can go up whatever. So it is built for disabled people. So that was the whole premise of what we're doing. It's full accessibility to everybody. So, all of a sudden Bath Spa are actually starting to get students coming to them that might not have gone to them before, because there's always the worry about what they can't get around, whether they're in a chair or, whatever the case may be. All of a sudden, we're actually finding that's working. So that's where we're really going to see a big growth. So those are the 4 sectors that we're really focusing on. That's what we're getting real traction from. Now, I'm not going to pass out aviation. I love aviation. I've worked in aviation, well, since I joined the company anyway. Fantastic people, and we react to what is needed in the market.
yeah.
If Heathrow wants us to come and have a conversation, of course we will. We built into Terminal 2 before, we can have those conversations, but it's just a really hard sell because there's space for it, which is always the challenge.
Yeah, I understand. Do you know what? I was going to ask you about whether the app, from a consumer perspective, can push through things like offers. You mentioned they've a Prada. Yep, there's a sale on a Prada. Boom. I'm always looking at ways to make money. A shopping mall could be like, okay, look, the unique selling points about joining our mall is not only location, footfall, all that sort of stuff, but we have an interactive map where we can push promotions, offers, and that's unique to us. And again, they might be able to charge extra for the rent because of that. But if not, no value added service. I was just going to ask you about that one. So yeah, sounds very customizable.
Very much so. Yeah, so we did this first for Lima Airport in Peru, where they wanted to push out discounts. It's always been in the roadmap to be able to deliver, but we never had a customer that demanded it. We're now getting customers demanding it. So it was a case of getting our Phil Ray, our CTO, going in, building the applet to make this work, but 100%. So it'd be part of the solution to say to Trafford, I know they haven't turned this section on yet, but I'm sure they will when they get to see the full working product. It's a case of, you know what, you've come today, it's 9 o'clock, there's 1,000 people. Why don't you go to Costa? Here's 10% discount you have on your coffee. We can 100% do that. Prada, then you're absolutely right, it becomes digital marketing, right? So it goes to those kiosks, the screens. You get a digital marketing company involved, who I'm sure will be involved in these big shop malls. You'll know better than I will, Johnny, that they're involved in this kind of thing, to say, actually, we want to pump out ads to all of these different stores, and we're going to charge them to do it. And then all of a sudden, you're right, the map pays for itself. It's just because the adverts pay for it themselves from a wayfinding solution. And then all of a sudden, you're starting to layer it for a number of different things that you need, whether security guards, fire exits, fire extinguishers, whatever the case may be. All of a sudden, you start to do that. So absolutely. So something that we're absolutely really keen to get all our shopping malls using. Some of them do already. Some of them are looking to do it, but it's just a case of getting that in there, getting it working, and getting that digital marketing company to say, look, we can do that. And we are working with a couple.
I was going to say, there's a new strategic partnership right there and then, but yep, you're already ahead of the curve, man. Awesome. Talk to me about some key milestones and big wins. It could be landing the first client, it could be landing a certain scalp, or it could just be good old fashioned revenue, or it could be a great hire. Big wins, milestones.
Big win for me, Johnny, is very much this quarter, Q1. For me, we worked so hard towards getting to that position. So we are seen in healthcare as an organization that they take seriously, they really need, and we can show straight away digital transformation. The biggest issue you have within healthcare is everyone talks digital. Oh, we do digital this, digital that. It's really hard to show it because it might be a different system in the background. We actually visually show it to you. So to me, being able to sell into healthcare is really, really key. Our first big win within healthcare was South Warwickshire NHS Trust. which was we sold direct. We didn't go through an FM company. And at the forward thinking of their board, Mark and Nigel, I'm sure they won't mind me giving them a call out, but these guys were forward thinking. This is really, really cool. We've got 5 hospitals within the trust. You hear stories about people having to move from one hospital to the other, don't know where they're going. They're going to map all 4 of these hospitals, put them all on a single interface, so that when you have your phone and you have to move from one hospital to the other, whether you're going via ambulance or via car, all the mapping information is there so they can go from there to there. To me, that was probably one of the most significant wins that we had within our environment. And look, I've got to call out the Metro and the Trafford Centre. They took a long time to flip and close. Again, going into that environment where you're going to some finance guys going, how much for a map? I could get it for a fiver. We're actually now they truly see the value of what we're doing. And it's fantastic. So seeing them using it, seeing them rolling out, seeing them getting out there and doing stuff. And, there's some other nice wins that are coming through. Check out Glenstone. Glenstone is a museum just outside of Dallas. And it's all got some amazing art in it. If you want to go and chill out and just go and see some incredible art, it was built by a billionaire's wife who was all about creating this art in massive. We won the Medal of Honor Museum through one of our partners. Again, these are really significant places that we're mapping. The Living Map's going to be in. So, it's a really important stuff for us, and it's great to see.
Oh, awesome, man. I love that. I love the passion as well. Even from the first deal done right up to present day Q1. I love it. Superb. So look, you said you're a big fish in a small pond, it sounds like, right, from a wayfinding perspective. But of course, what about Google Maps and all that sort of stuff? And I've got to ask, right, how are you standing out in this market at the moment? You're beating your chest, Pete, right? And I'm loving it. I'm all in. But, from a marketing perspective, because there's some people that are listening to this going, shit, I mean, we just do the same as company B, company C. We're so much more better than them.
Sure,
Well,
sure.
how do you stand out then? Do you know? I mean, talk to us, man.
It's really simple. Kind of touched on it earlier on. If you want a map, go and get a graphic designer to come and build you a map. Okay, that's all you want. But if you want the ability to be able to make a change to that map, if you want the ability for that map to be truly live, truly digital, come to us, because that's what we do. It's about the map management system. It's about our platform. It's about our software as a service. It gives you the ability, Johnny, you have a map for whatever area you got. You log into any software as a service and all it comes up there. I want to change times of shop entries. I want to push an advert out on this particular day. I want to change a shop from Sainsbury's to Tesco's, whatever the case may be. You can do that yourself with our platform. You're not having to wait for someone to do it. You don't have to pay someone else to do it. It's part of the original sale. What we sell you is a management platform. It's not a map. Now, we can make the map do anything. Again, Phil Ray can make a map. We've got style sheets. We've got uniqueness that goes. We had one customer that wanted a completely gold map everywhere. We got graphic designers that can make it look incredibly good. And that's what we do. And once that map is digitized, we put it onto our platform. And it's the platform that we're selling. It's not the map, if that makes sense. You can get Google Maps, and they're brilliant, quite frankly. They're really, really good for outdoors, and they're trying to play indoors and they're trying to do all that stuff. But let's face it, Google wants search. They want to know what people are searching for. We are very focused on building a digital environment for people to be able to find their way indoors and being able to find assets indoors. That's what we do. And we have that platform. It's software as a service. When it's worked well, it's about the software and how it's implemented and how it's worked in your environment. Think of that with the map. The map is the output, but the actual management of it is what you buy as a customer. That's what you get, that license fee to be able to log in, make changes whenever you need to. Going back to that example I was giving you before, I don't have to come in with all my techies to come and help you make a few changes to the map. It's just done by you. It's really simple.
There's benefits to everybody. There's benefits to the user of the maps. I'm going to walk into the centre. I don't know where the hell that I am, or healthcare. I'm damn nervous. Where do I go? It's an absolute minefield. I'm looking at these old school 1980s, 1990s signs. I got no signal, can't get Google Maps, but I can get there quicker. And of course, if you're in a retail environment, I get offers pushed to me.
Mhm.
And of course, from a centre perspective, they're spending more time in the centre, they're spending more money, they're using more facilities, we're getting more data. Definitely, it's win-win for everybody, mate. It really is. I love that.
Think of that hospital, right? So one of the reasons why South Warwickshire wanted to work with us is they had 9 different signs for X-ray, pointing people in 9 different directions with 9 different types of words on it. So
You're going to get lost.
of course you are.
Yeah.
Of course you are.
I mean, these are time-sensitive appointments as well. It's like, shit, sorry, I've just spent 10 minutes trying to find you. If they had a pound for every time they hear that.
It's about £3 billion a year lost to the NHS, people missing appointments. And that 3 billion,
God.
it's not million, £3 billion a year of lost money from people not turning up to appointments for whatever reason.
I hope you're collecting all of these as case studies.
We are. Well, our Angie, she's all over that. Every time we win a new customer, she's all into that straight away. So,
All right. Well, look, on that note, right, especially this Q1, so concerning your own growth and acquisition, what's been working?
massively for us is working with FM companies within the locator product, where they've been able to see where assets are, and I count assets as porters, as cleaners, as trolleys, as wheelchairs, everything that needs to be able to see that. What's been our biggest growth is the ability to be able to visualize them. And we are actually working with another partner at the moment to show when a room has been cleaned or not. So if you think of a hospital, people, it's all in the administrator's back end. They don't know whether a room has been cleaned or not. They need to go and visually see it. We're building out with a partner, I'll call them out Symbiotic at the moment, where they can actually visually see if the room is red, it's not clean. If it's amber, it needs to be checked, but it's been clean. If it's green, it's ready to go. And this is all in the administrator back end. So if you're trying to find a bed for someone within a hospital, you don't know whether that room is clean, where the next available beds are. Guess what? The system that Symbiotic is building up and we're putting in with that gives the ability to be able to link into that really, really simply and actually seeing where it is. And that comes down to the device that the cleaner actually has. So the cleaner goes into a room, they spend so much time in the room, they clean the room, they come out, they say, yeah, room's cleaned, on to the next one. In this case, using software as a service again to be able to facilitate that kind of action. So all of a sudden you're getting that productivity gain a lot quicker. So the biggest change for us is working with those type of companies, the facilities management companies, people like Compass FM, who are one of our partners, where they take on the whole of the facilities of a hospital. There could be thousands of staff working there with the reporters, cleaners, chefs, cooks, they all need to be part of this environment. Working with them has been really eye-opening for us and real valuable for us to get into those spaces. Symbiotic, as I mentioned, and there's Vital Hub, which is another one of our partners, which they, again, within the healthcare sector, they're probably looking more at sort of patient flow. So, when a patient goes into a room, you've probably been to the doctor's surgery now and you go log into a computer, give your date of birth. That's Vital Hub, so those are the guys, they have all that information. So we're the map behind that. Would you like to find out where your consultant is? Download the map, pick up your phone, scan this QR code. Guess what? You're going straight. That's where we're seeing real traction. That's where we're seeing massive growth for us. But as I said, where we're seeing real interest is very much because of our wins within Canary Wharf, within Trafford and within Metro.
These are big wins. These are big scalps.
But, bear in mind, they're not easy customers. They are demanding. They've got to make money. They've got to make revenue. They've got to get people coming in through the doors. Otherwise, their customers are going to get frustrated, right? So they have to have it right. And so what that's actually done is that's giving us that real step up within retail. These guys trusted us. We've delivered on what we said. We're now going to do so much more for them because of it. And that was the wayfinding piece. We're now going into all these other organizations that do wayfinding. They do shopping malls and so on and so forth. Let me help. Everyone's going digital, people. Everyone's looking at their phones to do absolutely everything. If your map is a dodgy old PDF, trust me, no one's going to use it.
You're right. Well, look, identifying the FM as strategic partners, that's a great move. Go into the hospitals, yes, because obviously that's all contractual, all subcontracted out. But let's get granular. How are you getting in front of these FM companies? What's your tactics? What's your techniques? Talk to us.
So it's been a bit generic, to be perfectly honest, especially within retail. Within healthcare, it's very much going through our partners, so it's partnering with them. From a retail perspective, it's been a little bit generic. They've seen it working at Canary Wharf. They've gone, let's do this, let's do that. Angie runs a PPC campaign, which is all around, generating when people are interested and they're coming through the website and so on and so forth. So getting our website into the right position. We kind of do the mail outs. We've got a great database of people that have always looked at doing something, but there's always been that little question in the background. But, when we start getting into different sectors, it's kind of like, right, let's just hit it hard, get a database, go after it, get mail out, get some PPC going and get that coming in. As I said, it's one of the best products to sell, but the hardest to close is probably the fairest way to say it. Everybody loves the idea of putting a digital map into an environment where everyone can start to do it. But when it starts to get fled through the rest of the organisation to a finance guide, so on and so forth, it just seems like it's a lot of money for little value. Whereas now what we're doing is, because we're very much pitching on that map management system, it changes the way we're talking about. So people are generically talking to us. Is there a need for a next step? Absolutely, Johnny. We need to think about, in the next 6 months, how do we expand our footprint? How do we take it out? Instead of me going and spending an absolute ton of money on a ton of more sales guys, how do I work with a company like you that can actually says, right, okay, what I need you to do is generate me 10 leads a month or 15 leads a month in this particular sector, knowing what you actually know. So it's going to that kind of granularity of what we need. We have tried some other companies in the past, to be honest, and they just didn't get it. So it'd be really interesting. And it is really one of those weird things where it sounds like it's really quite easy to sell. But if you're actually talking to the marketing, they'll love it. But you've got to feed that through to the finance guy. So actually, it's not about the map. It's really not about the map. We will think about that in the next 6 months. But what we're doing right now is we're relishing the fact we hit our Q1 target. We've got a great pipeline for Q2. And we're going to get into these other sectors. Once we start to expand into them, then we say, right, how do we now explode? How do we scale the company quick enough? How do we get to that position where we're in a positive place? So right now, the honest truth is it's been generic. It's been people coming to us, going to events, going to shows, customers, references, and so on and so forth. Our delivery people are pulling their hair out because they're trying to get it done quick enough.
I was going to say, I mean, if you were to get in front of a CMO or marketing department, this would the user experience, the customer journey, the retention of our tenants. Yep, get our patients there quick. It's a no-brainer. But like you said, maybe the message then gets diluted when it starts going to the finance guys. Is it about producing content or digital assets or magnets then that can keep the message flowing?
About under the map management system, not a map.
I think that is the key thing that I'm picking up on now, big time. Because sometimes coming into these calls, it's like, ooh, it's a map. It's a bit of software. It's a bit of a Google Maps wannabe or something. And when you start peeling back the solutions to these problems, sometimes people don't know it's such a big problem until you start peeling it back and you start putting a cost against it.
Selling one-on-one, right? So being able to build yourself up to the right person, to the decision maker, right? Going into the person who's going to take you to the center of power and actually have that conversation with them and talk you through what you're actually getting. And I think that's probably where we have failed a lot in the past, because wayfinding is always seen, and it is a complicated piece, right? And we have turned that corner. But where it was before, where you needed to employ 4 different companies and 16 people to build a digital map, it's crazy. We bypassed that years ago. So we're now in a situation.
Oh, that work is out of date. So look, I want to talk to you about the goals, right? So you've obviously had a great Q1. Sounds like you've got a nice big fat pipeline for Q2. But look, talk to me goals 2025. What looks like a successful year for you come December 31st or Jan 1st?
A successful year for me will look like clearly hitting our targets for the year, but also being able to build the brand, being synonymous with value when it comes to delivering a digital visualization aid. Let's call it on the locator piece. So being able to say that we are seen as number one globally when it comes to tracking and seeing and looking, visualizing assets where they actually are. Whatever that asset is, whatever sensor it's got running into it, that to me is very much about a personal goal to make sure that we're seeing it out there. When it comes to the digital mapping sort of market, there's a lot of companies going after the big smart city world, which is absolutely a fantastic space to be, competing against the Google Maps and so on and so forth, to be able to do that and being a little bit more, I suppose, cohesive around. That's what I'd love to start to think about. How do we start to compete against the likes of Google Maps? How do we get them to pay attention to what we're actually doing and going a little bit larger than that, but thinking, having our product growing a little bit more. So, for instance, South Warwickshire, 4 hospitals are all linked together. How many people connect their phone to their cars now? And their phone is everything their car does. All your music comes through, all your nav comes through, everything. But having that ability for that person to be able to leave Lewisham Hospital, go to South Warwickshire Hospital, and everything is mapped out for them. So they pick up their phone or their parking spot. It's all booked. You also do transport links. So you go into the map, you click on the little icon, it gives you all the latest timescales when the bus is coming, when the train's coming. But being seen as obviously the locator piece, which is our key asset management, visualization platform, been able to seen as number one at that, but also been able to say, look, we're innovative to think we're actually going bigger and better than that. And we're starting to link the trusts together. We're starting to link hospitals and cities together and actually starting to say, actually, whether you're indoors or outdoors, it gives you the ability to be able to make those changes at any one time. So again, it's about that map management system, being able to log in and make a change. Hey, guess what? You've got an event going on next week. Coldplay are playing in your garden. Boom, boom, go and promote it on the map straight away. It's here. Go and check it out. Buy a ticket. Boom, you get it really, really simply. So being able to have a platform built into the digital world of digital media, not a world I know, Johnny, you'll probably know far better than me, but able to think about how does digital media and digital visualizations really come in hand, and how can we work better together, and start to think about that space. So yeah, for me, obviously it's about hitting targets, obviously about hitting milestones and KPIs around our marketing activities, obviously about hitting our go-to-market KPIs as well, which, we're doing really, really well at. But it's about being visionary. It's about being that entrepreneurial driven organization to be able to get to that space and start to think bigger, better and more.
We're of a growth mindset on this channel, right? What about just something tangible? What about, are we talking a 2x? Are we talking a 5x? Or you've got your 4 buckets, you've got your 4 segments that you're living within. Can you share any? Not to the penny,
So I can't talk about numbers, obviously. For me, it's always about, multiples of ARR every year. And if you're not thinking like that as a software company, get out the game because you've got to be constantly thinking about how you're going to be getting your revenue more and more. We've now taken our ARR 4x from where it was last year, literally within Q1. If we can get another 4 out of that by the end of the year, that would be really, really cool. I'd be really happy with that KPI. And then doing that potentially again next year, so we're looking at a valuation that's going to go maybe 4 or 5x of what we're actually looking at. So, for me, it's always about growth. It's about growth or get out. So we're doing really well. How do we do the same targets again? How do we get to the ARR numbers by the end of the year? And I say we've grown massively just over the last 12, 18 months from being the pre-revenue company, which again, I'll never repeat and I absolutely hate, to coming to an organization where our revenue numbers are looking really, really good. Our ARR numbers are looking really, really good, which does give us a nice valuation, which is ultimately what we want. So yeah, for me, it's all about ARR. The way we build our finance models today, it's very much about sign with us, Mr. Customer. You don't pay up front, you buy an ARR licensing model. It is a very aggressive approach, but it works. So you're not having that big lump of cash going out at the very beginning. Some customers like that. Some customers want to pay up front. It's fine. We can be very flexible around a commercial balance.
I mean, I hope you get that 4x. Wouldn't it be just nice to just take the piss a bit more and go, boom, yep, another 4x by the end of the year? I love it. Okay, well, look, I love this question, right? You've got a magic wand just for today. It's just an Invincible Media magic wand. It's over to you. For you to get to that 4x, or for any one of the goals that you specified, what would you wave it against to fix to get you there quicker?
I think we're getting there with healthcare. I think healthcare see our value and they understand it, bearing in mind that healthcare are not digital people. These people are there to look after, there's nurses and doctors to look after us. Exactly right. That's what there. It's retail. Retail are all about digital. They're all about digital marketing. They're all about how can they access that information they need about their customer. And being able to say at the end of this year that we've gone into Savills times 4, and those organisations have gone, right, yes, we want you in every one of our shopping malls. We want you to to switch on that map management system so that we can actually see the data of what our people are actually looking for and see if those pair of Prada shoes were robbed, where do they go to?
Great little value add. I love that. What penetration have you got over the world in a sense? I mean, is the retail quite UK heavy, or have you got aspirations to take it over the pond, or maybe over to the Far East?
It is very UK. So retail is very UK heavy, to be honest. I mean, majority of our customers within retail are very much within the UK space. When you're stepping out of that, when you go into the UAE, we have spoken to a number of big shopping malls out there after Easter, again, talking to a lot of them about how we can actually understand that. Now, they have got maps. Again, what we find with retail is they spend a lot of money on maps, so they're not prepared to spend any more, which you can get, but they don't get the value of what we get. We're a fraction of what they actually spend. So it's those kind of conversations that we're having, but we're pitching on Locator, we're pitching on the ability to be able to track your assets, see where security people are, see where all your people are, which is really important. So I've been able to take what we've done and had some great successes with in the UK, then take it out to the Middle East to show them we've got some really cool customers in the Middle East now that are spending that ARR model with us. It's absolutely fantastic, and they absolutely love what we're trying to do, and we're working really closely with them. We've got some in the Far East, we've got a few hospitals that are taking off within Australia. We've got a casino we're talking to in Melbourne at the moment, which is absolutely massive. Huge casino. They want to be able to get that stuff. So, which again, it's kind of think of the application around that, which is huge. So deliberately, when we pivoted, we had a company that had a few customers that was doing okay. When we went to our go-to-market, we got to get our home soil grown first, and that's what we've done within the UK market. Our next step is going to be hopefully the UAE and the Middle East starts to spend some good money with us. I think third will probably be the US, especially now that Donald Trump's put his tariffs on everything. So we're going to have to pay some more money to go and work in the US. Not as bad as Europe, so it's not too bad. It's a good thing. You need to get some big funding in to be able to go and do that because it's always a lot more expensive. And then expand. But Johnny, as I said at the top of the session, because we're software as a service, our sales guys don't need to sit on planes going to visit customers. They can have Teams calls and Google calls and Zoom calls to actually have the conversation and show it, visualize it, show it, and actually send a customer, hey, do you know what? Log into the Met Museum website, go check out the map. That's Living Map. Go have a play with it. Go there if you're in New York. Have a look. But before you go there, plan your route. Where are you going to go? Put it all on there. So those kind of things do exist today. But it always is that ability to be able to do that and show that. Hopefully, we won't have to spend an awful lot on the front end of the business. Hopefully, that we'll keep generically understanding our global space and we'll be able to go there. But for me, it's about take easy steps rather than just go and explode. We're going to react to whatever comes our way. And going retail in the US, to me, is just brilliant idea. I love the idea, but it's going to take a big investment is to
Yeah.
go over there and do it, to hire the team.
You need to lock in that 4x first and get that plan nailed out before you go in for that sort of extra round. I understand. Cool. Okay. Interesting about the retail, man. And on the Far East, I was thinking about Dubai's, Abu Dhabi's, and all that sort of stuff. So cool. Interesting stuff. What about the theme park, the leisure sector? I mean,
So
we haven't talked about that. A lot of them have their own apps, but usually, how long is a roller coaster, all that sort of stuff.
do you know what? There really is. And I'd keep on saying to the board, we can pretty much go into any sector and add value. But it's where do we spend our time? Where are we getting the biggest bang for our bucks? It's all about generating revenue, right? So
Yeah.
you look at retail, look at leisure. We are slowly going through. We've got the cultural side, so we've got the leisure side from a museum perspective. Started to go down that route. Work with great partners like Smartify that do the whole speaking the phone as you come to a certain artifact or whatever the case may be. So we do work with those guys, and that's we're getting a lot of traction. But if you think about amusement parks and those kind of areas, they do have their maps, they have them out there. But what they don't have is the map management system. What we find is in the market is, and not meaning to be rude about our competition, but yeah, let's be rude about them a little bit. They've sold something in that costs an absolute fortune, and a finance guy ain't going to spend it again. Whereas what we're saying is you spend a fraction of that because the map is the output, the map management system is what you get. So we will probably look into that market. We will look at resource as how we can go into that space. Give me a call tomorrow. Do you know what? Absolutely. We'll treat them as well.
We'll take a quick tilt though towards the future. I'm already super excited about all the opportunity that you've got. But I was going to ask you, it could be from a tech point of view, it could be from a company point of view. What are the biggest opportunities that you see for Living Map over the next sort of 12 months or within 2025? We haven't talked about AI or anything.
Yeah, we have AI built into our technology. So we're doing a load of R&D at the moment where we're starting to develop the AI piece of the tool. And I can't say too much about it because it is a lot under security, as you can well imagine. But, the AI invasion of what we're trying to do is very much part of our growth plan and what we're trying to embrace. So if you think about the ability to grab someone's attention as you're walking past and you've got their data, it's something that can critically do that. But obviously it gets down Minority Report kind of thing, which no one really wants to do. But for me, it's about embracing technologies that come out the back. And look, if I put my smart technologies hat back on and take my Living Map hat off, it's only about one thing. It's about predictivity. Being able to predict what is going to happen in the future is the most critical thing for any organization, whether it's retail, whether it's healthcare, whether it's an airport, whatever. And what I mean by that is, if I give you an example, Hospital A had 20 patients had flu in November last year. Collecting all that data, seeing how that data is actually doing it, whether it is from Living Map or it is from a third-party organization or it is from IoT sensors or it's from data that is captured within the hospital, and being able to have that information at hand so that actually you can start to predict what's going to happen next year. So then you're looking at geopolitical impacts. We're looking at what's coming out from China. COVID, here we go again. What's Europe suffering from? What's the long-term weather forecast? Politics, they're going to take the winter fuel allowance away from our elderly. There's all these kind of impacts that actually happen that actually says, actually this year, 2026, we predict there's going to be 30 people in that particular ward that are going to have flu. So you're going to need this many doctors, this many nurses, this many beds, this many drugs. So everything we're doing in smart technology is all about the data. It's all about how we can actually give it to someone to start to predict what we're going to do. Is Living Map going down that route? No, we're part of collecting that data. So we're part of visualizing what that actually is. And then that really does give you a very strong feed in AI. AI is going to help us solve a lot of those problems by giving that, whether it's the free data or it's complex purchase data, but it gives you that ability to be able to predict what's going to happen in the future. And that is where it's all at. That is where organizations are desperate for. How many porters do I need on tonight? If I look at the data over the last 12 months, this particular day, 12 months ago, it was, I don't know, there was a big party in Bristol. Everyone got drunk because it's Freshers Week. We need a few more porters on because they're all going to be coming in through the doors, whatever the case may be. But that data is all about that multiple different information to be able to deliver. You're never going to be accurate on your predictions ever. I don't think even AI. And look, I'm a big AI advocate. I'll be lecturing to everyone how great it is. But what I will say, it's never going to be 100% accurate. But being able to give you insight to say, actually, if you do this, you'll save money. You don't need to over-order for 50 people in the room because we predict there's going to be 30. So why don't you order for 40 just in case the numbers are saving money? So it's giving that predictability, which gives you the ability to be able to save money and be more productive, being able to deliver. So one thing the NHS is desperate for. And if you speak to the people on the ground, don't forget about the bureaucrats, forget about the politicians, forget about the management, speak to the doctors and nurses that do such a fantastic job in our NHS. ability to be able to understand what's coming down the pipe in 3 months, 6 months, so they can actually predict, get it right. This is where it's at. So it's about smart technologies is all about bringing it to the platform of, what is next? What's going to happen? How do I predict what's going to happen? How can I use all this IoT information, all this mapping information, all this asset information that I've got going into a single, multiple, 10 different platforms, it doesn't matter, but actually saying this AI, using AI, is going to predict what's going to happen and give you a good insight as to what you need to do to be productive. And that's where it's all at for me. That's why I'm so excited about smart technologies. Living Map for me is the visualization of that. It gives you the visualization of that data, which is critical, and it gives you the capturing of that data so you can go into that smart world and what we're trying to achieve. That's where AI is going to impact.
Sounds good. So excited. It's all there for us to use. It's great for the heavy lifting, but it's got to be used in the right way. If you had to start all over again, what would you do differently?
If I had to start again, where are the mistakes I made? So look, never believe a pipeline until you've proved it yourself. That's the first thing I'd say.
Oh, yeah.
I can't tell you, I do some lecturing at some of the startup incubators, and they always say, as a CEO, always overqualify your pipeline and know your pipeline is real. Because when your pipeline is bullshit, I promise you people will see it, and you start predicting numbers against a pipeline that is really, really hard. So if I had my time at Living, we had to almost wipe our pipeline out and start again because of the way the business was pitching its product, the way it was actually going. So making sure that pipeline is 100% real. It doesn't matter if it's only 10% and you've had an initial conversation, just make sure it's real and those conversations have actually happened. That's the first thing.
Smart prediction, at least. Yeah.
Absolutely. And actually been able to say, look, I back my pipeline 100%, and actually get that. So that's the first thing I'd probably really focus on. The second thing I'd really think about is obviously the financial impact of the product in the market. You go into a marketing manager and your marketing director, a CMO, they'll love what we do. They'll love what we do. But you go to a finance guy who's just very much about the numbers. They're thinking, paying how much for a flipping map? Not happening. So that ability to pivot the pitch from being, it's not about the map, it's about the map management system, give you the ability to change something. Oh, every time we make a change, it costs us 16 grand. Use Living Map, the changes cost you nothing.
That's what you would want to lead in with. Yes.
Absolutely. So those are two things I'd really refocus on. And probably the third is my background in smart technologies. I'd really drive it home that we need to really pivot from having that wayfinding solution, which is best of breed, and it is, I believe, one of the best products in the market. It is fantastic. But the creating that need to have, that utility, which is our locator piece, I'd like to have done that earlier so that we could actually have said, right, we're starting to layer the map really, really quickly. So those are the kind of things I probably would have changed. But, the positive thing is they don't bring people in like me to look at a fantastically cool pipeline that's winning every single day and the product's selling everywhere. It's just not what they want me for. They'll go and get probably a fraction of what they pay me. But at the end of the day, that's what I love to see. I love to take a company that's kind of got that shit going on and turning it into where we had a Q1, which is incredible. So if I had really focus on that, get that earlier, get that beat going earlier and push that harder, push that agenda harder.
And look, off the back of that, is there any advice that you'd give to other founders out there, that either maybe they're just about to start or they've hit like a growth ceiling or they're going to go in for a round of funding? Any advice to other founders you can pay forward, man?
Yeah, sure. I think any entrepreneur that hasn't put his head in his hands and going, shit, how am I going to do that? Is not an entrepreneur as far as I'm concerned. They have to have that real passion for what they're doing. The first thing I say is absolutely do it. Get off your bum, go and do it because you'll only be successful. Work really hard. I'm a dyslexic kid that was told, dropped out of school at 14, was told I was never going to be anything. I've had to work twice as hard as ever, probably most other people to be able to get there. And the reason my mum, my God rest her soul, told me it's all about hard work. It's not about what you know, it's how hard you're willing to put in the effort to do it. The third thing, and probably the single most important that I'll say to any founder that I talk to now, any CEO, likely CEO, any CRO going to that, any sales guy, any COO, any CFO, I don't care how good your product is. If it's not making any bloody money, it ain't that good. It's all about making money. And don't get me wrong, you're probably going to get a million people coming at you. Johnny, we've got this product that's going to save the world. It's going to be brilliant. It's free for everybody. Great. Okay. How does it generate money? How can you build it to the next stage? How can you commercialize it? How can you get it to a stage where, people are going to buy into what you're actually doing? The likes of TikTok, the likes of Facebook, they're all free, aren't they? But the amount of revenue they make in the background is phenomenal, right? It's all about making money. So make sure your product is not a university project. It is something that you come out, you've looked at the market, something the market fundamentally needs, and someone's going to pay for it. and that's going to make you be able to grow your company, scale your company. And the fourth thing, as I always say, think big, start small, and scale incredibly quickly. Think big. How big can your product be? How big can the solution that you've developed be? How big could it possibly be? Think big. Don't just think, oh, I could sell it into London. I'm thinking, I want to sell it globally. To get there, start small. If it's just you, make that product really, really cool. Make it look like everybody wants it. And then once you get a bit of traction, scale it. Get it going as quick as possible.
Yeah.
We have fantastic people in this country. I guess in one way, it frustrates the hell out of me that a lot of people are moving out. But, we have fantastic people in this country. We've got a bit of a political situation where they're not supporting entrepreneurs and they're not supporting businesses at a low level. But don't let that stop you. Governments change every 5 years. So if you've got an idea, forget about all that. Just get out and do it. Get some money behind you. Go and make a product that everybody wants, and just be passionate about it. Get it out there. Talk to people about it. Get into networking events. Join a few of these associations. They're always free when you're starting up. But don't be frightened. Just go and do it. There's so many people that want to do it, and just have that something that's holding them back. What's that holding them back? Get rid of it. Dive into it. Even Bill Gates put his head in his hands once, went, and shit, how am I going to do that? Every single entrepreneur has done it at some point. Most of them do it every day. I do it every day.
I've got to race to the last part now, right? And I'm gutted, right? Because I want to keep going for longer, right? But we're going to go with a quick fire round.
Yeah.
Pete? So, best marketing channel right now. Go.
Google.
One tool you could not live without. And don't say Living Map.
No, not Living Map. I'm going to say great CRM platform.
And what about biggest mistake you've learned from?
Biggest mistake I've learned from? Oh gosh, there's so many.
Give me a top three.
The biggest mistake I've learned from is going into business when I was very young and going as an engineer, because everybody told me the only way you could ever get on is to learn how to fix stuff. No one ever told me that those guys was having that knowledge, you can actually sell something and potentially make more money. So that was probably, if we went back to the early part of my career, becoming a Cisco engineer straight out of the army to come and do something really special. That was a bit of a mistake, but you learn from it. I don't like to think them as a mistake. I like them as challenges. I've lots of challenges.
What about the best piece of advice that you've received?
So the best piece of advice that I ever received from a guy called, again, I'll call him as a guy, Richard. We used to call him Dickie Bowman at Telefonica. He was a coach that was in there. And I'll never forget, went in for a conversation with him, and he was just, this guy was, when I first met him, he grabbed me and he kissed both my hands. And I went, this is never going to fucking work. No way. And it was weird, but oh my God, what a coach. Richard Hawkins Adams. Sorry, Johnny. Richard Hawkins Adams. I'm terrible with names.
Yeah, okay.
Richard Hawkins Adams. He was the single best coach I've ever had. And I remember him telling me, and I speak to lots and lots of entrepreneurs, and I coach lots of people about this, and I use this very, very thing. It's when you're about to answer a question, count to 5 in your head. Don't answer it straight away.
Oh.
So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because that way you're not coming across as arrogant. You're coming across as thoughtful.
That's great advice. That's something I could do right now.
And every time I go in front of a customer today, and I still do it, before I go into a customer, I have a little routine that goes through my head. Richard Hawkins Adams saying in my head over and over again, count to 5 before you answer. Listen, 2 ears, 1 mouth. Listen, count to 5 before you answer. Think, and then go. And the best advice I've ever had from a legend.
Superb. That'll work with anybody of any background, any status. That's superb for me. Well, look, Pete, unfortunately, I've got to close this off, right? We've got to get on with stuff. But I mean, look, let's just end it with a final plug. Where can people find out more about Living Map and yourself?
Perfect. Look, wayfinding.com. We're all over the internet. Log on, have a look at our website. We've got a brand spanking new website, which we pulled together last year. Looks really good. It's got everything on there. Our head of marketing is constantly updating it, constantly doing new stuff in there. Check that out. Check us out on LinkedIn. They find me on LinkedIn. I tend to keep my LinkedIn up to date. Angie's publishing my blogs as many possible. I love to write, love to put a blog out there. Check out our latest blogs and what we've got. So for me personally, it's LinkedIn. From a company perspective, 100% check us out on livingmap.com, and say, just give me a call, give me a shout, drop me an email. And my contact details are on there. I'd gladly answer any questions. We've got a great sales team that works here, a great marketing team that pulls together, an even better development team that's pulling this kind of stuff together, listening to what customers want, listening to how they want their environment to look and feel for their customers. We've got a development team that pulls that together and really makes that work for global clients. So we're big enough to be able to support a global organization. But that's the best way to check us out, Johnny. And I don't think I missed anything from links.
No, we'll be putting links in the description. Yeah, we'll get the website in. We'll grab your handle, maybe some of your colleagues as well. We'll go OTT. We'll stick it in as much as we can. But look,
thank you.
That is a wrap. So listen, thank you so much for your time. And I wish you and Team Living Map to all the success this year. I've got that 4X in my mind. We'll do a part 2 maybe in first week of January, and we want to
Sounds
find
good.
out all about it. Any great insight that we can pay for the audience, any hacks, any corners cut, any great pitches, we want to know. We want to know. But dude, that's it. We are out. Thank you
Thanks.
very much.
Thanks
Cheers,
so much.
man.
Bye bye.